Today's topic around packaging and EPR, right, is the entire world of packaging. That sourcing and complaints are usually run as separate
obligation that stands today in the market.
EPR is end goal, right? Like easier, the total cost of ownership, rather than looking at sourcing and complaints are.
Hey everyone, welcome to the second session of the carbon table. And today's topic is interesting. It sits right at the intersection of cost, compliance, as well as sourcing. How to source cost-effective and EPR compliant packaging at scale. So Yeshwanth, he is our Chief Strategy Officer here at Fitsol, and he will walk us through the industry perspective on packaging, sourcing, the inefficiencies, basically the cost pressures and the challenges that companies go through when they are scaling. We also have Amit. He is the Chief Growth Officer at Fitsol, and he would be covering the EPR side of it. So he would look at EPR requirements, compliance challenges, as well as the role sourcing plays when it comes to these regulatory obligations. So we'll be starting with the mission life video, and just a request, we'd be taking questions at the end of the session. So if you could reserve your questions till then. Thank you so much for joining us today.
We are just a tiny speck in this vast universe. But are we sure the truth is only what meets the eye? Think again. This is our doing. We have plagued and poisoned Mother Earth with our selfish motives. India, known for large-scale behavioral change programs, has once again recognized the urgency and has led the global alliance with Mission Life.
मिशन लाइफ क्लाइमेट चेंज के खिलाफ लड़ाई का लोकतांत्रिक डेमोक्रेटिक एक प्रकार से उसका विस्तार कर रहा है, जिससे हर कोई अपने सामर्थ्य के हिसाब से योगदान दे सकता है। मिशन लाइफ इस बात पर भरोसा करता है कि छोटे छोटे प्रयासों का भी व्यापक प्रभाव हो सकता है। मिशन लाइफ हमें प्रेरित करता है कि हम सब अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में ऐसा बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं जिससे पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा हो।
Revolutionizing general outlook, our Prime Minister envisions to change individual and community behavior to bring in significant impact on the environmental and climate crisis. Life's objective to take individual and collective action for protecting and conserving the environment. Looking to bring in paradigm shift, Mission Life envisions three core transformations: change in demand, change in supply, and change in policy. Simplistically put, lifestyle for environment is a mission to help you identify simple acts in our daily lives that can contribute significantly to climate change. The ideology is designed keeping in mind that the actions would be specific and measurable, easy to practice by individuals, communities, and institutions, and non-disruptive to ongoing economic activity, and in fact, promoting economic activity on the foreseeable future. So, let's take a pledge today and show to the world that we are environmental conscious and can lead the path for the world to follow. Lifestyle for environment.
Hey, thank you, Anjali, for the video and the context setting. Welcoming everyone to join this webinar with us. We're in Fitsol. We're glad to be doing this roundtable conversations on carbon table and sustainability around themes. And today's topic around packaging and EPR, right? How these both play a very crucial role for a developing economy like this. Why is that an important point? Is that in the last 7 years after COVID, we've grown from about 4.5% to around 7% as GDP, right? This growth is fueled by a lot of new innovations, consumption, and then tied to many other new arenas of business opportunities. But along with this is also a very crucial challenge which people did not foresee is the entire world of packaging that gets tied to anything that we consume most of the in our everyday life, right from the e-commerce to every retail store, anywhere we go, to any other costlier FM electronic products, everywhere packaging is a very crucial part, right? So except for your automotive, almost every purchase of yours is linked to some way or the other packaging. Even in automotive, the entire downstream value chain of auto manufacturing, auto component manufacturing, or the vehicle manufacturing involves a lot of packaging. It is said to see that about more than Indian packaging industry is around more than $100 billion. In that $100 billion, about or to 50 to 60% is only about plastic packaging alone, which contributes to that, right? In that, why is that another concerning point for us is because in this again about 56% ties to your flexible packaging alone. And why is that a concern for us? I think going further, I think Amit will also touch more on that. Flexible packaging is one of the hardest materials to do recycling, along with many other challenges that exist in the environment today, right? And most often than not, while government and then many organizations and then individual bodies are taking policies, measures to do as much as they could do to reduce the harm at the scale and the complexity at which it lies, right? It is often causing more harm rather than it's more of a boon than the bane, right? So it ends up that about 40% is being burnt, and which is also causing additional emissions, or it's getting dumped in terms of a landfill or ocean fill, which is even more concerning, right? It is all we all know, we've grown up to see like how ecosystem is all interlinked, right, to each other, to the organisms eating it, to the soil consuming it, to all us living into it, water tables consuming plastics, right? It's become a very good study of late that people come to understand there are microplastics in almost everything we consume, right? It's all a byproduct and the end result of how we are not handling our packaging right. So what we understood today is that the larger problem statement is like sourcing and complaints are usually run as separate work streams in bigger MNCs today, at least until yesterday. It's like it's in a evolving phase, right? Which is what is causing major challenges. Every packaging that is to be planned and procured has to also be thought through for what is the EPR compliance aspect of it. Government has put efforts to see how to draft regulations or what is the ecosystem circling back to it, right? So it's a huge liability that people have not calculated for, and people should start thinking on those lines, right? Because you cannot optimize something which you have not started mapping from the day zero. You can't wait for a year end to do all the reconciliation and to do the filing and then look at it as a tick off, right? If you keep ticking it off, your business will sustain, but the environment won't stabilize enough for your businesses to eventually be there, right? So that's a major challenge. In that aspect, I would welcome Amit to share his perspective of how the entire EPR market is also growing, right? While the entire packaging market is growing, government has tightened regulations, EPR market is growing. I also often hear from Amit that how the supply ecosystem is still very unorganized, and Amit and team are putting a lot of efforts on the ground to make it more structured, make it more compliant, so that our customers are able to work on some reliant partners like us. Amit, welcome to share your thoughts.
Thanks, Yeshwanth. That was a good insight that you added for the packaging. I was just adding to what Yeshwanth mentioned, the way plastic is being used and the obligation that stands today in the market for recycling, right? Every brand today is responsible for the end of disposal of plastic that they are putting into the market, right? Now, EPR is some framework that government has laid down, and they're trying to digitalize this entire ecosystem so that the tracking and traceability could be then the actual usage of plastic can be in the proper manner, right? And along with the disposal. So there are companies who are looking at it in a obligation manner, but there are companies who are taking it in a more responsible manner. They are using mechanism for recycling. They are putting their efforts into that, and that's what the EPR is all about. That it is a responsibility rather than an obligation for any particular company or a brand today. So every company who is putting plastic into the market, they are obliged or they are responsible for disposal and recycling for that material.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. But also, Amit, what has been the entire response in the market, right? Like, for example, while the complaints has come in the last few years, while it's getting very tightened, right? Like, how quick are people to adhere to these complaints, or how are the challenges towards this? And can you also share lights on when you talk to the complaints officers to see like how what are their thoughts about reducing packaging related EPR compliances or targets? What are their thought processes or their approach towards this?
So there are companies who are facing a challenge. There are many companies, most of the companies have got themselves registered today for EPR obligation that they have to comply with, right? And the challenge is that they are actually not aware of the material that they are using, right? So that the sourcing of material that they're doing, they have to have the knowledge of material that they're sourcing, and that the material plastic they are putting into the market, that information has to be put in basis that only they actually come to know what EPR targets are there for them for the year one. Today, just because of the way compliance is there in the market and they have to fulfill, that's what they look at it. They don't take it as a responsibility as on date, because most of them are not aware of what compliance is all about, right? It has to be structured, and that's what the government is doing, that they are trying to structure it in a manner that the recycling happens in a proper manner, the disposal of plastic happens in a proper manner, and that's where this entire ecosystem is framed for, right? When it comes to mistakes, it's typically brands are not looking at it. Okay, some brands are saying that okay, there is a use of plastic, not to that extent, so they're not obliged to fulfill the EPR obligation. So they don't typically fulfill the obligations, or they don't comply with the regulation that is there, because they're not aware of the plastic that they're using. Companies who are aware of these things, they are looking for alternatives of plastics, right? So what could be a reusable plastic or compostable plastic that they are looking at? They are looking out for options in the market.
Hey, that's very right lead and right point, Amit. Yeah, in off late, I've also been talking to more startups, and then what we understand is that there's enough innovation that's happening as alternatives to plastic, right? It's just that the feasibility of it and scalability is something that people are still introspecting and properly evaluating it. So we see that sourcing now, as you mentioned, there are two user personas, right? One who looks at EPR as compliance, one who looks at as a conscious environmental effect. Those companies have already started setting up process and systems, right? Like while EPR is an end goal, right? Like the objective should eventually be that how do I eventually be in a position that I don't even have to do EPR, right? I don't have to buy credits, that I've taken care of my entire procurement in a very structured and environmental friendly way. If I have eliminated a lot of MLPs or one-way packaging, if I've used as you mentioned, bio alternatives or alt material packaging, and recyclable or reusable packaging, right? And wherever they are able to fulfill, they're only themselves starting to collect also with in terms of notes. That's a very small percentage, while I understand in the market today, but I think that's where the goal is going to be, right? With the growth trajectory that the India is expected to grow, right? Like almost every e-commerce company with all the quick commerce growing, a lot of plastic is going to only further get consumed in a very radical manner. And with all of that to be tied up, I think the new innovations are set to scale up in the next 5 to 6 years. We also seen a lot of startups doing innovations there, and that should be there. So now the procurement guys are also starting to see if I am having to procure this, right? So example, if a sustainability person, a procurement person is working in tandem, it will eventually come out that if there's a little premium today until the scalability hits for a bio alternative packaging material to see the light, right? Then they should probably look at it as a TCO, the total cost of ownership, rather than looking at it as a
Right.
packaging alternative, right? Like instead of for them to look at packaging plus APR. So that has been crucial, fair enough. But even besides that, there is so much of the packaging that has to be ended up that it has to be recycled. How is the entire recycling market shaping up in India, Amit? We have always read that there's a round of recyclers in almost every colony, but where they collect it and then they move it to a recycler. But in terms of complaint-driven recyclers or the market ecosystem, can you show some light on that?
So when it comes to recycling industry, it is again growing in a very nascent state, and it's growing. If I look at from the perspective of that, what government is demanding today, right? The recycling industry, that's what CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, today is looking at. That okay, recyclers have to be. They have set a percentage for the recycler. They are doing the audits for the recycler, so that the actual recycling is happening or not. So they are taking steps towards genuine and the proper recycling should happen in the market, right? And that's would give a encouragement to the recycled plastic to be used in the market for manufacturing of new products, right? Government has already laid down a guideline that every brand has to use 40% of the reused plastic, which is PCR, post-consumer recycled product, for their manufacturing, right? And that's what government is pushing toward, that one should be in a position to use that material instead of virgin material. Today, recycling industry, yes, there are challenges. It's because they're majorly driven by the informal sector. That's what government is trying to digitalize this entire sector around. That how do we drive to a stage where the, we can trace the entire material that is being recycled, or that is should be recycled, I would say.
Got it. In fact, yeah, I was also reading that recyclings are also getting concentrated in few parts of the country where there are more complaint companies, right? I think that is another opportunity for people in the call to understand, or if there are potential people wanting to get into this business, that if there could be more pocket instead of just pocketed and concentrated recyclers, if there is good opportunity, if you're going to be compliant and if you're able to scale and fulfill all the requirements, I think that's a huge opportunity as you're mentioning, right? People are looking for verified recyclers. That also ties towards the following point that people are now asking, right? What's the role of technology in the entire in the gambit of packaging, procurement to EPR, right? So I'll share my thoughts. I'm happy to hear your perspectives also for the larger audience. Um, right from procurement, right? Like if now, as example, when our customers are using our platforms, right, they're going through the entire sustainability journey, right? They know what they're procuring, and then what is the carbon emission or the other sustainability impact that is having, linked to our sustainable alternatives that we offer in Greenfind, to eventually what we're also building in terms of EPR traceability, right? So I think while the initial box are filled, I think the next biggest tech innovation will also be in terms of EPR traceability. While there has been few pockets of such technology being developed, I think it's not hit scale. I think what that's what also we are trying to solve. And how important is that going to be, Amit, right? Like a traceability platform that gives confidence for the customers, will it just help increase adoption, or will it also help people pay premium because it's going to increase authenticity? What are your thoughts on that?
So it comes to tech involvement in this entire process, Yashwant, right? Brands are looking for some kind of solution where they can do a traceability or tracking of material that is being recycled one, right? Brands do look for an option that what is the mechanism through technology that it can be driven through consumer buyback programs, right? There's a scheme called DRS, which is there in the market, but it has not been successful till date, right? Due to the unawareness of in the market of this scheme, or the consumer is not ready for that currently, right? When I say that supply of material, when it comes to plastic, right, particularly if I look at, right, today the PET bottle or whatever it is there in the market, whether it's packaging or a PET bottle or any other material that is there, today the traceability is a challenge for everyone, right? And companies are trying to own that. That how do we solve this through a technology? Today, through a green find, we would be in a position over a period of time that we can say that okay, we are able to track and deliver the product back to the recycling industry. And that's what we're building an entire supply chain of, right? Technology solving this entire circularity problem.
Got it. And are government going to be little lenient on this, because it's a very gray face, I understand, because last year or the year before there were about little unethical practices of few recyclers not being ethical and compliant, and that's causing an entire harm to the entire ecosystem, right? So, but even today in India, at least about minimum, as per various data sources, at least 25 to 40% still are unorganized recyclers. And for all the plastic that they are recycling, Amit, like how can even EPR credits get tied to that, or people if they're working that? Is that
So I would, yes, so rather than saying unethical, I would say unaware market, right? They're not aware of this EPR market. They're not aware of proper recycling. They don't have they're not ready for this entire ecosystem for now. So that's where the awareness, or when we talk of digitalization, this entire sector, right, comes into picture. So that information or the awareness has to be spread. Government is putting their efforts. At the same time, brands or the companies like us, we have to put in a step ahead and say that okay, we are going to digitalize, or we will try and formalize the sector accordingly.
got
Right? And that would give a support to the brands in that term, because brands have a core of their business, not of this recycling part, right? And that's what this entire technology would solve the problem around.
Okay, fair enough. So as per your understanding is that it's majorly information asymmetry which is leading to this, and I think if people given a chance and exposure, they're ready to get more compliant and digitized, is what you're saying. That's a very fair
Right.
point, and that's a good outlook to the industry, right? Because we might and we will need more recyclers. We're also seeing that now bigger brands are themselves either having their own material recycling units. They're coming with that, or they're even tying up or acquiring. Recycling units to adhere to this, right? And I think mainly in the FMCG space, I think this is getting on a very bigger traction because the amount of bottles and all that they consume, plastic packaging, right? And besides that, I think what we see, right, like again tying back to look at it, that sourcing has to be thought through an end-to-end journey, right? It can't be immediate today's cost comparison. I hope all the procurement officers on the call or who's going to be making decisions will look at it wholesome, right? Like I think that's why these webinars from us, or we even do some initial free consulting calls for people, right? Like either with me, Amit, or the other senior leaders from Fitsol to just give an industry outlook of what are the best practices that others offer. So that is all said and done from our end. And finally, closing remarks, Amit, what is the way forward, right? Like, are people going to make informed decisions and ensure that there's no pressure on the EPR market, or do you think people are still not really matured enough to take that route, and EPR market is as expected as per data resources, which looks practical enough that it's going to skyrocket at least 50x, 100x? There are different data resources saying so much, right? More new EPR categories coming, so different types of packaging are going to come into it. So how is that set side for the next 10 years?
From the EPR point of view, this market is growing, and gradually the information which is flowing in the market of this recycling industry, right, that is definitely going to have figures scaling 2x or 3x in the coming 2 to 3 years. And when you talk of 10 years, yes, this is going to be triple or more than that, if I look at, right. India again has a vast consumption of plastic as well as other items when you talk of other categories, right? So today, six categories are already live in the market for EPR, but six more are to come, right, on that side for EPR categories. So in totality, if I look at this entire sector, yes, has a major role to play in terms of recycling, and the recycling industry would get digitized over a period of time. It would take time for them to adopt this entire mechanism. Fitsol as a company is on the track where we are trying to say that, okay, we will be doing the tracking and traceability of this entire journey for recyclers, and that's where recyclers are also happy to do a partnership with us in that terms. Brands today are looking for options to do a acquisition or to partner with recyclers. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, the core strength of these companies is not recycling. They are typically looking at it at a obligation or a liability rather than a responsibility, I would say.
Got it. And yeah, I think a few companies are also setting examples and benchmarks, right, by their long-term vision and policies. And I also happened to talk to one of the leading companies, such as based out of Bangalore in India, and they're expanding globally, but their vision towards EPR and then their entire packaging has been very thought through. So I think they are one of the examples. I think they make more case studies in the going further, which will obviously is going to help the ecosystem, right? Like for them, they say that both their procurement team's targets and then the sustainability team targets are all tied to a common spreadsheet, right? Like it's a system level change that they've incurred. It's more of a DNA first principles thought through approach, that if I'm starting to think from here to tomorrow, I think tomorrow when there's a huge complaints pressure and there's a lot of demand, as you mentioned, like still recyclers are going to be more taking time to beat complaint, and then there's going to be huge supply and demand issue of recycled EPR credits or for recyclable plastics to be available, right? At that time, if you have to make alternative decisions, it's going to be even bigger, right? So it is better for people to start looking at a very long-term strategy, start incurring it as a budget from this year to the next 5-year, 10-year roadmap, right? Every year, how much can they allocate to alternative material packaging, a small pilot of it, or how much can they invest in R&D? If they're not an R&D first company, tie up with R&D driven companies, life sciences practices and bring in more recycled or recyclable or alternative packaging standards, right? Like that will be more important, and that will set standards for the way ahead in terms of sustainability, and also it will eventually make a huge P&L impact, right? What we've seen historically is that if people have planned sustainably well in terms of their budgets from N-5, right? In the sixth year, they will make a profitable P&L, not just as a not a premium to what people are pursuing it, right? So I think that is majorly from my end. And if there are no other closing remarks, I think Anjali can take it up. So in one takeaway, it is that sourcing and complaints are one decision. Make it once on purpose with the same data. So sustainability has to have a lot of digitization and adhere to complaints, so that your packaging procurement today is not another cost or a complaints issue for you tomorrow. That's from my end. Amit, anything from your end? If not, we can have Anjali to take the questions.
Nothing, I'm good. Ajay, you can take the call ahead.
So thank you, Amit and Yashwant. That was a great discussion. So we'd love questions also from everybody who's attending. We're looking forward to having some meaningful discussions. So I think Mr. Ashok Tiwari has put up a question in the chat. So why don't you ask your question, and we could have a discussion around it? Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, very good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah. Actually, sorry for delay. Actually, I was in another call. Anyway, actually, just I want to ask, ma'am. It's a very informative session and very well discussion held, as I heard from last 15 to 20 minutes. Actually, I just want to ask, CPCB portal is not functioning well, and several industries is unable to file AR for the 2023-24 also, huh? 23-24. And CPCB has also accepted already that CPCB portal is not working well, and he has extended due date 1 year more, such as April 24 was due date, and it's extended severally till 31st March 26. So what about you? Your thinking?
Amit, would you
So,
like to?
So, Mr. Ashok, currently the portal is not working. That there are certain challenges that CPCB is facing, because they launched a portal, ETP portal, where they face a challenge and they have holded the portal for some time. But for annual return filing for 23-24 is already closed for plastic category, right? Because the due date was 30th of January for that.
Hmm.
And the extension that has come for plastic category is for the year 25-26 till 30th of June.
Okay. But several industries is still not submitted annual return, huh? So what about?
So we can connect, if you for that we can say that, okay, you can drop in the details to us and we can connect post this discussion. I have look at it, that what is the obligation or what is it pending from your company side, and we can take it ahead from accordingly.
Exactly. Several industries have already raised a ticket to CPCB. CPCB also closed the ticket without resolution. 10 to 12 tickets raised the industry and waited till
Because,
9 to
sir,
10.
you're talking of 23-20. Ashok, sir, you are talking of 23-24, for which that deadline was 30th of January. So that date is already
No,
passed,
24,
right?
25 also.
What is left is 24. Okay, that's also closed, sir. That's also closed.
Hmm.
The date was 30th
Okay.
January for both.
Yes. Date has CPCB extended severally due date for the submission of AR, but still industries is unable to submit AR due to
Sir, it was
CPCB portal issues. But CPCB is required to think about that industry is unable to submit AR. Why this such type of stagnant in portal?
So when the date was extended, that was given a date of extension of till 31st of March, right, to fulfill the obligation
Okay.
for 24-25. But 24 was given till
Yeah.
30th of June,
It's our
right?
submission. You
And
can discuss with CPCB, huh? And another thing is also I want to highlight with you. CPCB portal has designed such a way that one by one all the invoices, sales invoice uploading required for the EPR credit generation. For the cement industry,
yes,
lack of invoices. 5 to 10 lakhs invoices available in single cement industry.
So that's a
So,
pain area that every company is facing today. So that's something that CPCB is already working on. That it's challenging for companies who have lakhs of
it will be
invoices per
deadline now.
month.
Working का
They
deadline
have a
होना चाहिए
challenge.
ना boss. CPCB is also
So,
working from 2016. Today is 26.
I know, sir. I'm aware of
10
it, sir.
साल
Yes,
working का
I
time हो गया
understand. So
10
see,
साल.
Mr. Ashok,
so gradually,
Yeah. Gradually, yes, please
so
speak.
so gradually they are working on it. So it's the query of similar query has been raised to CPCB by multiple other companies as well, right? Because the
Yeah.
lakhs of invoices which have to be uploaded, which is a
Boss, your voice
every
is
Amit,
not
I
clear.
think
I think
your
there is some.
company today,
Yeah.
yeah,
right?
Amit, I think your
A
voice
company
is
like
breaking.
Heidelberg,
But I have
similarly, other companies all do have a challenge, right? Who have a lakhs of invoices. So,
Amit, we can't hear
hello.
you. Your voice is breaking currently.
Yeah,
I have Mr. Tiwari's details, so
hello.
I think we can connect post the webinar with him,
It's
and maybe we can take it
Yeah.
further.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there is another question by Mr. Sameer. Would you like to ask your question, sir? I think his question is to share some insights on the upcoming EPR ETP platform and how is it expected to impact the current EPR market, especially for recyclers and credit pricing. Amit, would you like to take that?
currently the ETP platform that was launched, that got started on 1st of April has been put on hold for some time, right? But yes, that's another way of digitalizing this entire ecosystem of trading of these EPR certificates, where CPCB has set up a benchmark for pricing, minimum and maximum pricing, and that's going to definitely give a boost to the recycling industry in terms of commercials.
Right. Are there any other questions? Anyone else who wants to ask something? Please let us know. This is the time. If there's anything else. Okay, great. So I think then we could wrap up the session. Thank you so much for joining us. And we would be uploading this webinar on our YouTube channel as well. And we will be sending all of you the links. So thank you so much for joining us today and have a great day. Thank you. Thank you, Amita and Yeshwanth.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks.